Hey guys, so in one of my recent videos where I was talking about how right after I drew a line in the sand and just said, if this channel is going to grow, it has to grow on my terms. I don't want to do anything I don't want to do. And so I'm going to shut the comments off on this channel. I'm going to reinforce the idea that I'm not going on anyone's podcast. I'm not doing anything to grow this channel. If it's good enough, people will find it, people will talk about it, and it'll grow organically. Incidentally, this is the exact way that I grew my business very successfully. Right after I did that, that exact thing happened immediately within like 36 hours. Somebody who has a wide reach talked about my channel. And as a result, I got an influx of hundreds of subscribers. And so obviously, I hope that's as obvious to you as it is to me that that's not a coincidence. There are no coincidences. And when you really embrace that there are no coincidences, then at least you have a shot at being able to notice cause and effect. Or, you know, I don't know if that's the direct cause and that's the direct effect, but just to simplify it, I'm trying to protect my skin from the sun here, sorry. Just to simplify it, we'll just say cause and effect. But I also said in that video, time is not linear. And this is a concept that I don't even try to think about this anymore because it's one of those brain erasers. How can time not be linear? We never experience it any other way. Unless you're sitting here in the present moment, just, you know, reveling in your conscious awareness and allowing the world to fade away right now, here, right now. We're living in this moment to moment to moment experience. And so the idea of time not being linear almost seems like woo-woo magic. But anecdotally, now, I have a lot of personal evidence that may be the case, or that is the case, to the point that I'm not doubting it anymore. And I wanted to just talk about the example that I just gave is a good example for me of time not being linear. There was a video that was already being produced that I'm pretty sure was being produced well before Monday of last week, which is when I sort of had this moment, and then it was posted Wednesday. So this video was being produced already. Before I had that strong intention and just said, that's it, boom, it's done. I'm not, you know, this is how it's gonna be. That was being produced before that. So that's an example of time not being linear. You will find that, you know, as Esther Hicks says, when you imagine something, it's created immediately. It's in the vortex. I don't particularly love that language myself, but basically it's ready to manifest as soon as you are ready to have it. And you being ready to have it is really the tricky part of all of this. It's, what does your mentality have to be? How do you have to feel about it? That's the tricky part of this. But how can something be ready to just show up immediately as soon as you're aligned with it? And the answer is that time is not linear. It's really the only answer. Time is not linear. Things are being created constantly in the right now. So when whatever the thing is that you want finally manifests, what you're often going to find, if you are privy to any of the details, is that thing has been brewing for some time. It's impossible, really, to wrap your mind around it. But this is what seems to happen. You'll find that things were being set up for a long time for this moment of manifestation. It's, you know, I can give you a couple other examples just offhand. My fiance, I was finally ready to see that he was like, you know, there, available, existed, you know, but things had been being set up for so long before that. Like, his life and my life had been on a similar time track. He'd had all kinds of like conversations with family members about how he wanted to move, all this stuff. And then boom, it's like we met and it was on, and everything happened super fast, because it's like, how could he didn't know he was going to meet somebody who lived in a different town and want to move. You know what I mean? Like, these things all just lined up. Everything's perfect. Why? Because time is not linear. And we just have no way of processing that. But if you can understand that that is part of how this works and just accept it, that takes away a whole like boatload of disbelief about this whole process, I think, because everybody gets stuck on the how is this going to happen? How is this possible? How can this possibly come about? And the answer is because things have been being set up in linear time long before your desire even became a thing. It's mind-blowing, but it's, you know, another example, another dumb example. I've talked about it on this channel a bunch of times, and I'll keep talking about it, even though it's freaking dumb. I decided I wanted to get the perfect gift for my friend. I decided I wanted to get her a blanket, and I wanted to get her, when I was looking around this store, TJ Maxx, when I was looking around this store, I was like, I wish there was some like little personal jokey type of trinket that I could get her, and we have this like inside thing where we send each other funny pictures of sloths. I wish I could find a sloth thing. A dumb sloth thing. There's this ugly frog thing. I was like, why can't that just be a sloth? So I was walking around, I was like, I'm gonna find the perfect gift. I'm not even gonna have to look hard for it. I gave up. I just said, well, there's no sloth shit here. Oh well, my intention didn't work. I'm just gonna buy her a blanket like I originally intended. And I went over to the blanket section, and there was a horrible blanket with sloths all over it. It was perfect. It was like a really nice blanket, actually. But it was just like, you know, had sloths all over it. Now, why is that possible? That blanket did not materialize in that moment. That blanket, you know, if you traced its origin, the buyer at that TJ Maxx store or whatever had to have gotten it from the TJ Maxx distributor, and the buyer at the distributor center had to have gotten it from whatever company was liquidating it, and that company had to have bought it from some catalog in China or something, and that company in China had to have had a designer or somebody coming up with, you know, think of all of the steps that had to get set up for that thing to be in that place at that moment for me to find it based on my intention. It had probably been going on for 6 months, and I didn't even have that intention until that day. And yet there it was, and it materialized. The only explanation for that is that time is not linear, if you ask me. The only explanation for that is that things are being created in the moment, and while we say, how could that have been happening for 6 months? It's because 6 months doesn't really exist. That's just an illusion. It's just a way that we're perceiving this within this experience. So if you can think of it that way, you know what I mean? If you can think of this thing that you think has just infinitesimally small odds of happening for you, or if you look at some of the things that happen for you, think about what the odds are that you would, you know, think about all these, you know, every day we're like running into things where the odds of those things being in that place at that time are so small, it doesn't even register. You know, odds, finite resources, everything about that is that's just another illusion that is a part of this whole game, simulation, whatever this is. But yeah, that's an important thing, I think, to think about and accept. If you can accept that that's a part of the way this works, then hopefully it's not an easy thing to accept. It's a lot easier if you've seen a bunch of examples of it. But that, I think, can remove a huge part of the doubt, and doubt is the killer of all manifestations, you know? Overall doubting that your mind is even doing anything, that's a bad place to be jumping off from. A lot of people are still in that space. I don't think I fully really believed that everything was happening mentally until even maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago. I think I made a video on here 4 or 5 months ago saying I finally think I've accepted that, you know, the body cannot create. There's so many different things that like we believe in here, like environmental things can cause illness and things like that. It's really difficult to believe, no, any illness is caused by the mind. because there are a million exceptions that come up. Well, what about this? What about when a kid, when it's a kid? What about all these refutations just automatically pop up that cause you to continue to doubt. But the biggest killer, I think, for even small manifestations is thinking that there is a finite supply and that the odds of you getting a piece of that finite pie are so low. I think those are the two things that got to go. They got to go. Because your job is not to figure out the how. It's just to decide and to live with certainty. And I think to do what you can, to do what conventional things you can with that sense of certainty. But your job is to be the decider, not, thank God, not the coordinator and the choreographer. God, it's the worst when you have to try to figure out how to get something, especially when you have no clue. Anyway, I hope that helps somebody. I just wanted to explain what I meant by that and give a, sort of like a very basic way of looking at it, the way I look at it. I'm not a scientist, and nor will I ever be. And that's how I process that. It's mind-blowing, but it's consistent that things have been set up to give you what you want long before, in linear time, long before you even came up with a desire a lot of the time. Just more mind-blowing hologram magic for all of us plebes down here to experience. Anyway, have a great day.